How do we fill it out? What do we need to know?
First thing you need to do is get a resume. I consider, because I look at every resume that comes through HealthPoint comes through my desk. So the first thing I look at is your cover letter, also your resume. And if it's functional, it's going to draw my eye. So if it's functional, you have the experience, I'm going to be calling you. You don't have to call me.
So let's say I'm starting to fall in love with both of you and I want to work and I'm going to write you a cover letter, right? How am I supposed to express in the cover letter that I have those missions, I have the same values? What kind of things have you seen on cover letters that work? What kind of things have people said in cover letters that they should never?
Honestly, we don't get a lot of cover letters. It's a little bit more taboo now, I think, but it always is something that stands out when somebody does do a cover letter. It's usually someone with minimal experience or someone that's transitioning from a completely different type of field, and they basically want to let us know why they're interested in neighbor care and how those skills and their values and their passions will transfer over into the position that they're interested in. And so usually those are the ones that stand out to me. So if we're looking for someone with a lot of experience, or we're like, we need a minimum of 1 to 2 years of experience, if somebody is a new grad or has minimal experience but they wrote a cover letter or even a nice objective in their resume where it's a nice little kind of resume that just kind of explains like why you're interested in neighbor care, that's going to stand out. I'm going to reach out to the hiring manager and say, hey, this person doesn't really have a lot of experience, but they have the passion and they're a good mission fit. And those are what we call coachable candidates. And so some hiring managers, they'll take someone who is passionate and really connected to the mission versus someone that just has a bunch of experience that's not connected to the mission. And so that definitely will stand out. But I'll be completely honest, as a recruiter, I don't see a lot of cover letters these days, specifically with providers, mainly just because the market is so crazy for healthcare that people aren't really, they're applying from their phones and they're not really sitting down and applying like they would traditionally in a different market. When you think about Seattle, we have a 4% unemployment rate, which means there's a lot of people who are employed. And so the market is really, 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 really high. So a lot of people, just for competitive reasons, and I think it's not being taught that often either, are not really doing cover letters. But like I said, it definitely helps if you're transitioning into a new field, because it gives us an idea of, we don't want to have to piece together the story on your resume. So you're able to tell us that story up front, and that's always helpful.
Do you guys take cover
Yes,
letters?
it's a requirement at HealthPoint. You have to have a cover letter along with your resume. Most of my hiring managers, they won't even take you if you don't have a cover letter. They figure if you don't know how to write an effective cover letter, then you're not really going to be a good fit, because it's very competitive, like she said. And the one that don't have it probably will be the one that he or she, one of the hiring managers, won't look at.
And we are talking medical office. We're not talking clinician here. That's completely different. Your education was to teach you about keyboarding and to teach you about coding and to teach you about protocols. So I would think it would be incumbent upon you to brag in your cover letter what you do now know, whether it's your first job ever or you're doing a transition. And then what Ebony said was really, really key. You can send a resume and no problem. You want to be recognized. You want them to actually like put a name and a face together, then spend a few moments in putting together a right and proper cover letter.
Absolutely.
Because nothing is worse than an inappropriate cover letter. And I'm sure you've seen things that people put in these cover letters. So what are like maybe 1 or 2 things you don't put in the cover letter?
Please reread it. Read it to yourself, read it to someone else. And if you've sent it for another position to another place, do not attach it. Please put what the position you are applying for. For instance, if you apply for an admin at Taco Bell, just give you an instance, and my job is a medical front office, you still have that admin on that cover letter. Don't send it. please reread it and say, okay, this is not the job. You know, look over. You may have 18 cover letters or 18 resumes. I look at how well did you tailor it to that job. I don't want you to just put random, here go a standard cover letter and a standard resume. That's not going to get you anywhere.
Your cover letter is between $35,000 and $40,000 a year. That cover letter is worth $35,000 to $40,000 a year. That's what 17 and 20 suss out to be, okay?
But just make sure it's not a standard letter.
Right. Just put
because there's so many templates that you can go get. We know when it's a template.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We wrote those templates.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So just make sure it's genuine.
Okay.
And because we want to hear your personality in the cover letter, if it's just a standard cover letter, we don't hear anything about you. Because essentially everything's on paper, and I'm a person that believes there's so much more beyond the paper. So I like the idea of trying to put together stories, but really kind of let your personality shine. Especially if it's volunteer experience, things like that, that's not necessarily work experience,
Yes.
but that's why you're interested in this role. Make sure you're putting that in there.
Good. See,
And-
that's really important. All the volunteering work we do at the animal shelter, that's transferable, right?
Yeah.
Right.
We count that. We count the volunteer experience. So that could give you an increase as well.
Yep.
So the reason why we're focusing on the cover letter is because that is the one sort of document in this whole process where you can have like some personality. Because resumes are sort of black and white, right? It's like I did this, I did this.